Hi there, my name is Matthew Wappett. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Persons with Disabilities at Utah State University, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief of the Developmental Disabilities Network Journal. This is a video abstract and summary of my opening editorial on the origin and aims of the Developmental Disabilities Network Journal. In this video abstract, I summarize this article and highlight some of the key points. In this article, I begin by sharing my experience of going to school and noticing different groups of students. I particularly noticed that students with disabilities were treated differently, but I didn't understand why. Throughout history, people with disabilities have often been treated differently. For hundreds of years, in fact, people with disabilities did not live with their families or in their communities. People with disabilities were often forced to live in institutions or workhouses. Unfortunately, these institutions were not good places. They were often dangerous, unclean, and isolated. People with disabilities were not allowed to live the life they wanted in these institutions. Unfortunately, this went on for hundreds of years, but in the 1960s, many advocates and parents wanted to change the dangerous and unhealthy conditions in these institutions. These advocates knew that people with disabilities could live in their communities and go to school. Unfortunately, most communities didn't know how to support people with disabilities. At the same time, President Kennedy was elected. President Kennedy also worried about the rights of people with disabilities. In fact, he had a sister with a disability, Rosemary, and she had been in several institutions, and so President Kennedy knew how dangerous institutions were. President Kennedy helped pass many new laws to support people with disabilities here in the United States. These new laws also created what is called the Developmental Disabilities Network. The Developmental Disabilities Network includes organizations like Developmental Disabilities Councils, or DD Councils, University Centers for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, or UCED programs, UCEDD, and Protection and Advocacy Organizations, or Disability Law Centers. This journal will publish articles about the importance of the Developmental Disabilities Network and other systems that support people with disabilities in this country. This journal will also include articles by people with disabilities. We want to make sure that people with disabilities also have a voice in deciding what we publish. So we include people with disabilities in the review and editing process. This journal is different because we want to make it as accessible and open as possible to those who may not typically have access to information like this. We provide a peer-reviewed venue to publish research by staff and faculty who work in the Developmental Disabilities Network. But perhaps the most important aspect of the DD Network Journal is our focus on accessibility. Most of the leading academic publications focused on disability issues are very expensive and inaccessible to anybody outside of higher education. Furthermore, although these existing journals give lip service to the importance of inclusion and participatory methodologies, they don't provide meaningful opportunities for people with disabilities to participate in the review and publication process. Finally, the structure and format and processes used by these other publications often don't meet the basic digital accessibility guidelines. And the content of these journals is frequently written at a reading level that makes it difficult for people with intellectual disabilities or non-academics to access and understand. We firmly believe that it's important that information about disability systems should be directly accessible to the people who are served by these systems. One of the core missions of the DD Network Journal is to ensure that the information published in our journal is accessible to people with disabilities, parents, siblings, caregivers, and direct support professionals. This is relatively new territory for an academic publication, so we'll be figuring things out as we go, but we've taken some preliminary steps to meet this goal. For example, each article that is submitted to this journal will be reviewed by an individual with a disability. We are committed to building a group of reviewers who can provide real-world, lived experience perspective on the articles submitted for publication in our journal. We are working with Georgetown University UCED to develop guidelines and a process to support self-advocates with intellectual disabilities who want to participate in our peer review process. and future articles in this journal will share these guidelines and our process so that other journals could adapt it for their purposes. We are also committed to publishing participatory action research, or research that includes people with disabilities. As with other articles, these submissions will be peer-reviewed in order to ensure that the focus and quality of the journal, but our review criteria privileges disabled voices and hopes that we ensure the work published in our journal reflects the perspectives of people with disabilities. In order to increase accessibility, we've also made a few changes to the structure of articles in our journal. For example, in place of an abstract, we've asked that authors provide a plain language summary. This summary is intended to help non-academic readers understand the focus and content of each article. We are also encouraging authors to provide video abstracts, like this one, and summaries of their article. This opening editorial, which you are currently watching and hopefully clicked on here, is accompanied by this video summary. And the hope is that more and more authors will be willing to take the time to create a video version of their work. As video becomes more and more ubiquitous, it is important that academic publishing adapt and embrace these new technologies that allow us to share information in a variety of ways. The more options that we provide for accessing information, the more likely we are to meet the needs of a wider audience. We're privileged to have some committed partners in the publication of this journal, and we're grateful to all of the individuals who've agreed to sit on our editorial board or whom have agreed to volunteer as a peer reviewer for this journal. Any large undertaking like this journal is a group effort, and I'm grateful for the support and collaboration of the Utah State University Merrill Kaiser Library, the production team at Digital Commons B Press, and our support staff at the Utah State University Center for Persons with Disabilities. Our hope is that this journal will reset expectations around inclusion and accessibility and will help make high-quality information regarding disability programs and services more readily available to individuals in our communities. We are always seeking more reviewers. If you would like to serve as a reviewer for this journal, please send an email to the managing editor. The email address is editor.ddnj@usu.edu. In your email, please describe your qualifications and your interest in reviewing. You're also welcome to call our office at 435-797-1981 if you would like to discuss opportunities to participate in our peer review process. Finally, our winter 2020 issue will be focused on the impact of COVID-19 on people with disabilities and the disability service system. We are seeking research articles, personal perspectives, and preliminary analyses focused on the COVID-19 pandemic. Our hope is to publish a wide variety of articles that highlight how the pandemic has impacted people with disabilities on a personal, local, state, and national level. The Winter 2020 issue is being co-sponsored by the Association of University Centers on Disabilities, or AUCD, Council on Research and Evaluation. The Council on Research and Evaluation will be helping with reviews and editorial content, and we are really excited about this opportunity to partner with this committed group of researchers from across the USED and LEN network. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this video abstract. It is an experiment, and so we'll see how it works. We welcome your feedback and your input, and we hope that you continue to find the content in our journal interesting, inclusive, and accessible. Thanks.